Did Joker Folie A Deux bring the yahahas and the yuck-yucks and put a smile on my face? Maybe? Let's talk about this. Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams, and I am here today with a spoiler-free review for Joker Folie A Deux. Before I get started in this review, let me know your thoughts. Do you like the first Joker movie? Have you seen this one yet? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe as we do more and more things here on Cinefanatics. Right off the bat, I kind of like... I enjoyed the first Joker movie. My ultimate problem with it is this doesn't necessarily feel like the Joker that we know from the comics. This isn't the Joker that I grew up watching, whether it was the Batman 60s TV show with Adam West, or Batman the Animated Series, or the Batman 1989 Tim Burton movie. This does not feel like that kind of Joker, and there's no actual precedence in the comics for a character named Arthur Fleck. So this is an entirely made-up story that I feel like we don't actually need. Part of what makes the Joker intriguing as a character is the fact that we don't know anything about him. We don't know his history. We don't know where he comes from. We don't know his background. We know nothing. He is an enigma. Not Edward Nygma, that's the Riddler. Joker is someone whose background could be anything. And I know we've seen like multiple comics and stuff, especially like The Killing Joke, where there is supposedly a version of his origin that is being told in that, but even still within the same story, he says that might be one possible origin for myself. There's so many, I don't know which one's real anymore. So keeping it under the guise of that, which is what I usually hold true, then this could be a possible story, a possibility for Joker. Sure, we'll just go with it. So the first movie was okay. It was not so much about the character of Joker as much as it was a character-driven piece about a man who has mental issues and is basically he is a victim of the healthcare system of the government, or the lack thereof, so to speak. And I'm not saying that in terms of like everything that he does, all the crimes, the murders, which some of which are actually, I would still say are like defending himself. So at least the guys on the two of the three guys on the subway, that's more self-defense. The third one, that's straight up murder. So, but not saying that he is crazy and that's what caused this. It's just a whole lot to flesh out within a story that could have been its own thing. This actually could have been a story told without it without it needing to have that connection to the comic book character. So moving on from the first Joker, we've got Folie A Deux, which introduces us to Lady Gaga. Because of that, it also introduces a musical element to this movie. Which, what's really weird about that is hearing everyone talk about that before this movie had even come out. There are people who are very much against musicals, and I understand that argument. You just have a hard time connecting with a movie when at any given moment the characters could break out into song and dance to help explain themselves, and we're supposed to believe this is a world where that's normal and we all understand that. Sure, some people might have a hard time with it. I actually really like musicals. If there's a movie I can sing along with, cool. Maybe not in the theater, so please don't be afraid if I'm sitting next to you in a theater in a musical. Like for Wicked, don't worry. I'm not singing out loud. I'm singing in my head. But that's what happens in this movie as well. It's not so much that the characters stop what they're doing and they start singing like grand Broadway productions. It is more, I want to call it more diegetic. What I mean by that is, if you're not familiar with diegetic, typically in movies we'll see like music that's playing in the background as we're being introduced to a scene, and then usually we'll see something that will convey like maybe the music that we're hearing is actually a song on the car radio. So you'll see them turn off the radio, and then the music immediately stops. That is diegetic. In this movie, the music is really coming from them spontaneously singing. It would be Arthur and Harleen Quinzel. She typically goes by Lee in this movie. Arthur and Lee just talking to one another, and then they just start singing, just like any of us would sing like in our normal lives. You're going about your day doing chores, washing the dishes, taking a shower, you just start singing. You're not living in a musical, you just want to sing at that moment, and that's what this is. The music feels more like they're just in the mood to sing, and it's not even high quality. Like Joaquin Phoenix, not a singer, so we're getting his raw voice of Arthur Fleck just trying to sing what the world needs now is love, or when the saints go marching in. It's that. It's really simplistic in the way that music is conveyed. Other than the fantasy sequences, which we know from the trailer, there are a couple of fantasy sequences. If you're familiar with the first movie, we know that Arthur Fleck sometimes lives in a fantasy world, which leads us to the main story for this. A lot of people were wondering, is this really happening? What part of this movie can we believe? Because we're essentially following Arthur Fleck, who has been proven to be an unreliable narrator. So what's actually going on? This movie primarily is all about the trial for what happened in the first movie. This takes place 2 years after the first movie, so apparently over the course of 2 years, we've had some problems getting through the healthcare system. A lot of questions on Arthur Fleck's sanity, and that's a big part of what makes this movie. It kind of feels like that this was the leftover question from the first movie. Yes, we got the first movie, we saw how that ends. Arthur Fleck managed to somewhat get away from the TV studio, but then he still was captured. We leave him in a mental institution at presumably Arkham. And we're seeing how he interacts with the staff there, and then that's it. We don't get anything like any answers to that question. Is he actually considered insane? Would we qualify this as insanity under typical like law regulations? How would this actually play out in real life? And that's what this movie is answering, which is interesting because typically, like at the end of the first movie, you're like, all right, well, we know where he ends up. He's in an insane asylum. He's a crazy person. He's the Joker. Yeah. This movie presents a lot of other questions, though. What would actually happen in a case like this? The problem with it, though, is it's not done truthfully. As someone who has watched way more Legal Eagle on YouTube than I probably ever should, I understand that like a lot of the courtroom scenes in this movie would not happen in real life. I know that in a courtroom, you don't walk up to the jurors. You don't walk right up to the witnesses that you're questioning on the stand. And there's a lot of times in this movie where they're doing that, and I can see there's quite a bit of an issue by allowing these characters to do that. So it does kind of break some of the reality of it. But again, you're watching a fantasy movie where characters will sing songs, and also with it being lightly connected to a comic book or comic book characters. So that's what makes it kind of a little rough around the edges, in my opinion. As far as the courtroom, I love that we are expanding on what was presented in the first movie. I don't know how I feel about the execution of it. The other thing to talk about, of course, is going to be the performances, namely of Joaquin Phoenix, who again does a phenomenal job as Arthur Fleck. I don't feel like that is a problem with this movie. He's doing the same thing he did in the previous movie, and I think he does it very well. Lady Gaga, on the other hand, as Harley Quinn, basically, she's got some dynamics to her. It's not straightforward as you might think, or you might not think, because again, this takes place in an insane asylum, so nothing is probably going to be straightforward. But I like some of the angles that her character is given. It's not a straight like Harley Quinn that you know from the cartoons, from the comics, from the movies portrayed by Margot Robbie. This is a more grounded person who just is infatuated with this Arthur Fleck character. Again, questioning, coming back to whether or not this is supposed to be the Joker of the comics or not. That's up for you to kind of decide how you feel on that. But with the connection with someone named Harley Quinn, it kind of helps bridge that gap more to it being based off of the comic book character. Or at least it is until the ending of this movie, which is the another thing about this that I like leaving the theater. That's the thing that's going to be on every single person's mind, is that ending. That ending hits hard, and I foresee that this is it's going to be the thing that divides a lot of people's opinions about this movie. You either really love the ending or you really hate the ending. For me, I actually really love the ending because it does, without giving away, the ending to this clears up a lot of questions that I had going into even the first Joker movie. So I love that they're actually putting a period on the idea of this character, and I love how they did that. A lot of people are absolutely going to hate what they did with that, but it's going to be just the way that you take in this movie. This movie is depending on you to formulate your own opinions of how you feel someone who may be lost in the mental health care system, and then on top of that, within the legal system, what direction they should go or what should happen to them. Anyways, that overall is going to be my review. Do I like this movie? I think this is a movie that I would say I enjoyed on an initial viewing. I don't know how quickly I'm going to want to revisit this movie. I usually use like a comparison to, say, like Leaving Las Vegas or Requiem for a Dream. Both of those are very heavy movies that deal with very heavy topics, including the loss of your mental faculties at some point. Those are not necessarily movies that you're like, you know what, I'm in the mood to watch Requiem for a Dream. I don't know anyone who's actually saying that, and if you are, please, like, seek help, possibly. There's a lot of great aspects to movie making in those movies, but as far as entertainment value, it's going to be a little hard. And I know that's what a lot of people said about the first Joker movie as well. This one, I don't feel like, as far as watching Joker or Arthur deteriorate over the course of the first movie, we don't really get that this time. It's more just questioning his sanity at any given moment, and it does make it a hard watch. And with the musical numbers, again, all of this combined, like trying to judge this as a whole, I don't know how eager I'm going to be to want to rewatch this movie. We'll see. I probably will watch it again once it's available for home viewing, but then after that, I can't really foresee myself wanting to revisit this movie or the first Joker anymore. So, that being said, I recommend check it out if you were a fan of the first movie. Just be prepared for this to go in a couple of different ways and touch upon topics that you may not be mentally prepared for. So, highly recommend it. It is a decent watch, at least for the first time, so go check it out. Anyways, that is my review for this movie. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below in the comments. Again, while you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. Come follow us on social media. We're at The Cinefanatics on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can follow me personally at RCA Reacts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd, and youtube.com/@RCA Reacts. Thank you for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.